Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we take another look at Abby and Libby's case out of Delphi, Indiana. We are 6 days out from the trial and a lot of information to go over. So let's welcome in Jill Moser. Good to see you. Mustang, Lisa, True Crime Housewife, Miss Dog Lover, Patty, hello. Miss Dog Lover says, do not be a scrub. Hit that like button. Appreciate that. If you guys could go share this as well. Go share it on Twitter, your Facebook, your YouTube channel. That way we can get more folks in here. The more fact checkers we have, the better. She Warrior, good to see you. Night Shadow, what's up? What's going on, Mustang? Beth, good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your lunch. Hope you're having a great Friday. It's Friday, October the 11th. H. Nixon, what's up? Happy Friday to you. Support with Stefa, welcome in. Always good to see you. Dave G. CJK. Frank Meister, what up? Solar Chef Steph, good afternoon to you. Audra. And everybody out there that's lurking or too busy to comment, shout out to you as well. Hope you're having a great day. Frank says lots more documents. Turn my phone down a little bit. All right, guys, it's getting close. Lots to talk about today. Good to see you, Bismo. Timmy, Copper Horse in the building. Kate B. Hope you guys are all having a great day. All right, so let's start with what's been going on so far. I'll pull up the Indiana My Case for Richard Allen's case. Good to see you, none of your business. All right, let's get my screen up here. Okay. So everything that happened yesterday, the motion for transport of those 4 inmates, believe that was James Haas. He's connected to Ron Logan, Keegan Klein, of course. We know who that person is, how he's connected to Delphi, along with his so-called confession that him and his father had something to do with the murders. You guys are familiar, I'm sure, with James Chadwell. He's going to be spending the rest of his life in prison for attempted murder and sexual assault of a young child. And then we have this person named Ricky D. Davis Jr., who appears to be locked up with Keegan Klein. So I don't know. Maybe he said something to Keegan Klein. Maybe even admitted that he lied. You know, he could have told Keegan Klein could have told this Ricky guy, like, yeah, I made up the story. You know, it was a false confession. Or he could have gave even more details. But we do know that it's the defense team that's interested in Ricky D. Davis. So anything that he has to say is going to most likely benefit their client, which is either going to work out as part of maybe a confession, that takes away a lot of the blame. Maybe it'll turn into just a kidnapping charge for Richard Allen, or um, Keegan Kline has also mentioned that he knows Richard Allen. So he's been telling YouTubers that he knows Richard Allen, that he had something to do with the Delphi case. So maybe he was locked up with this Ricky Davis Jr. character and told him, hey, like that was all a lie, which would definitely benefit Richard Allen. They're not going to call these folks in if if it's going to hurt their client, in my opinion. So today they had a transport order entered. Of course, they're going to be meeting on the 14th. There was also a motion in Lemonade filed. We'll take a look at that. Frank was kind enough to share these documents with us in the members-only Discord. Thank you, Frank. Also, another motion filed, verified motion for certificate of appearance regarding out-of-state witness. That relates to Dr. Monica Walla. And then also, motion filed, defendant's motion to incorporate evidence presented at the August 1st trial hearing into offer of proof. So we'll look at all that information. I have a few articles that I want to read, and we'll open up for discussion. What's up, Lisa? Shout out to the mods, all my members. You guys make this possible. Everybody who's been donating to the Cash App, thank you very much. I wouldn't be able to spend time covering the Delphi case and covering true crime the way I do if you guys weren't supporting me in the way that you have been. So thank you. Christine, how are you? Kitty Cat, out for an appointment, so we'll catch with the replay crew. Well, have a great day. Murder Sheet releasing a book. Oh, that's interesting. Hi, Watha. Good to see you. Who did I miss? Sees Through. Yeah, Chadwell is a piece of shit for sure. Nixon, I've never changed my stance on KK. Provided Richard Allen with the information about Libby and Abby. I mean, it's possible, just not a whole lot to support that. But if you have a hunch, like I do, I mean, you guys have probably all seen my video titled The Catalyst. I don't talk about it much, but those are some of the theories that I definitely believe might play out, but the evidence doesn't really support it. So the video titled The Catalyst, if you want to watch it, is definitely based off my intuition. And a whole lot of facts, right? But a lot of speculation as well. Doris Brockman, what's up? None of your businesses. Klein has nothing but time to do as long as he's seen as relevant to the case. It benefits his situation. Yep. So he's definitely has plenty of motivation to lie. And it looks like he started with Barbara McDonald during that interview where she went and visited him. That's when he first kind of started throwing his father under the bus. And he really started getting attention. Then people putting money on his books. So yeah, he's definitely motivated to lie. The more that he lies, the more attention he gets. Then again, maybe he's not lying. But there's no evidence or proof to back up his claims. So I'm being patient with all of that. As patient as I can be. Sees Through, how are you? Mark Collins, how are you? Thank you, Copper. I appreciate that. Okay, so we'll go in chronological order here. First thing was motion in lemonade. So we'll pull up those documents. Yeah, so they're calling these folks. I don't, they can interview them. I don't know if they're trying to claim that they're third party suspects or not, but they're part of the investigation. It's part of the discovery, especially Keegan Kline meeting with investigators. So they have every right to at least call him as a witness, without accusing him. Same goes for James Haas and his claims about Ron Logan. As far as James Chadwell, I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But I believe the Ricky Davis inmate is definitely going to be there to talk about Keegan Kline and most likely say, hey, well, Keegan told me that he was lying, that he really doesn't know Richard Allen, and he was doing it, just to get a Happy Meal and a milkshake or whatever. Yeah, how do you know if KK is lying? Words are coming out of his mouth. Yep, motion in lemonade. All right, let's put this up on the screen here. There you go. If you guys want to screenshot that, can even do a little bit bigger for you. Go post it on your Twitter. Welcome in yonder. Good evening. It's going to get a Happy Meal and a little toy. Well, you want apples or you want French fries, fatty? You know he wants those French fries. If they put KK on the stand, that would be a disaster, in my opinion. Well, it depends. Is he going to tell the truth? Like, hey, I lied. I really don't, even though I tried to make it seem like I know Richard Allen, which he did. And I couldn't really even find wife Lilith's YouTube channel. So I don't know. She had a whole lot of information pertaining to Keegan Kline. So I don't know if that means anything or if she just has it hidden or if he finally told her that he was lying. Who knows? We're going to find out, though. But he did try to make it seem as if he knew Richard Allen. He talked about him as if he knew the guy. And we know that he did confess to being near the crime scene with his father, and his father came out of the woods. I'm assuming right there at the cemetery, and he came out muddy and bloody and said, we just had fun. So I don't know who we is. And I really don't know why Keegan Kline would make something like that up. We know he's a sick piece of shit. So maybe that's all the information we need to know. Definitely not a good guy. All right. Motion in lemonade. The defendant, Richard M. Allen, by counsel Bradley A. Rosie, not Rozzy, but Rosie, moves the court as follows. Defendant Allen is charged with 2 separate counts of felony murder. Defendant Allen has reason to believe that the state of Indiana may seek to admit at the trial of this cause testimony from various prison guards, inmates, law enforcement officers, and possibly the testimony of other IDOC staff members as to defendant Allen's mental state during his detention at Westville Correctional Facility and Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. The defense believes the state's offering of said testimony will be driven by their desire to use said guards, inmates, administrators, and law enforcement officers to establish the veracity of alleged incriminating statements made by defendant Allen. So Richard Allen when he first was arrested, Diener put him submitted a safekeeping order, which took him from county jail into the prison system so that they can apply 24-hour monitoring. It was at that time Richard Allen started making threats against himself. He became his worst enemy. So they have a program where they pay inmates to sit and watch Richard Allen. I think they even gave him a special blanket and certain things like that he couldn't use to hurt himself. Well, while they were watching him, apparently he made some confessions. He apologized to what he did to Abby. And I think when they use the word administrators, they're talking about Dr. Monica Walla, who since then has been fired. So I believe they're going to drag her through the coals, just like the prosecution plans to drag any information about Todd Click, right? We know that he's recently been disgraced. So that takes away from any testimony or him as a witness, his credibility. So I think they're going to do the same thing here with Dr. Monica Walla, who, from my understanding, was joining Facebook groups and all kinds of things like that were pro-defense. So I don't know how they're going to spin this other than her credibility, because what she did, she looked up Kagan Klein and she joined Facebook groups pertaining to the case. So I think that goes to her professionalism, and that may even be the reason that she was let go. I'm not quite sure, but I do believe that she was fired. You guys might be able to correct me on that. Hey, Jerry, haven't seen you in a minute. Thank you, sir. Thanks for sponsoring today's live stream. Hope you and the family are well. Yep, everything is good on my end. I hope you're doing well. Happy Friday to you. All right. The specific individuals have been identified on both the state's witness list and defense witness list, which were exchanged between the parties prior to the filing of this motion. The defense desires not to list each and every witness in this motion so as to maintain some confidentiality. So who are they trying to keep confidential? Is it folks that we already know? What is this all about? And are they doing the prosecution a favor? Or are they doing Richard Allen a favor by not mentioning these names? What would be the point of keeping it confidential? We know that that's not something that the defense team usually does, right? They're known for leaking information. Taking into consideration the public interest in this case and the forthcoming trial, the defense will offer up the names of said witnesses at a hearing on this motion or upon request by the court, whichever applies. Defendant Allen believes that such testimony would violate Rule 701 of the Indiana Rules of Evidence. The witnesses do not have sufficient life experiences that would permit making a judgment as to the mental state of Defendant Allen on the dates and times in question or any date and time before or after Richard Allen's arrest. Basically saying these inmates and these folks who are going to give a statement or testimony, they're not qualified, to tell us or anybody if he was okay, Well, when he made these confessions, he seemed okay. Like, you're not qualified to make that decision is what the defense is saying. Hey, what's up, Brad from outside of the grid? Good to see you. Yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't. They're not saying he's a third-party suspect, right? But he's definitely involved in the case, and they're going to use him to probably create a little bit of doubt. I don't see why they would call Keegan Klein if he's going to say, yeah, I know Richard Allen, and I'm the creator of the Anthony Shots account, and I was, me and my father helped. We were part of this crime. I don't see the defense calling them unless this is going to be some kind of veiled confession and attempt at a plea bargain, They're there to say, well, we did the majority of the crime. Richard Allen, he just helped us kidnap the girls. He didn't know that we were, going to commit murder that day. And he even tried to stop us. That'll definitely change everything for Richard Allen and his charges, but that's probably not what's happening. Dr. Walla may become a file clerk for the defense daddies along with the. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, me too, for sure, Jerry. Or at least read the transcripts. And a big part of this was his confession to Dr. Walla. So if they can attack her credibility, that's going to take away some of the power out of that confession, which is, from my understanding, the most detailed. Um, he told Walla that he wanted to confess, and he wanted to explain to her how it happened and why he did it. And he explained to her, from my understanding, that it was sexually motivated and that he killed the girls because he didn't want anybody to find out about it, about his intentions or the kidnapping, things like that. And he also explained how it happened, why he covered them with sticks, that he did it to hide them. And we'll look at some of that information in Nick McClelland's cross examination of Perlmutter. For sure. Paying tax dollars to get him a Happy Meal. If KK had anything relevant to add, he would have gotten a deal. Well, it's not about that. Kagan Klein could come forward and say, hey, this is exactly what happened. But if he can't prove it, there's nothing credible about him. And this happens a lot in a lot of cases that I've covered on this channel, is where they have witnesses that come forward and say, hey, look, I was there. I saw them, I helped get rid of the body. But the person making these statements is a known felon, drug dealer, long rap sheet, a known liar. So without actual proof or being able to say, okay, well, where's the body? Well, I'll take you to it. Well, a lot of times they're not able to do that. So they're just not credible. All right. So number 5, said testimony would violate Rule 702 of the Indiana Rules of Evidence, as the prison guards, inmates, law enforcement officials, and some of the administrators have no expertise in the field of mental health and therefore are not qualified to draw such conclusions. So they need to attack the evidence. The evidence right now, damning to Richard Allen, are these confessions. I think they want to create this atmosphere that he was out of his mind. That's why I don't hold, to me, confessions don't hold a whole lot of water, especially when somebody's going through what appears to be psychosis. So the prosecution's going to try to tell a story that, his mental state was just fine. He knew what he was saying. And the defense is going to beg to differ. Said testimony violates Rule 704 of Indiana Rules of Evidence, as the testimony amounts to the witness drawing an opinion on an ultimate issue, whether or not the witness believes that Defendant Allen is guilty of the charged allegations. Finally, said testimony would also violate Rule 403 of the Indiana Rules of Evidence, as it tends to be confusing. Oh, see, so now they want to go ahead and focus in on this. Pick and choose. When it came to the Odinism stuff, that's out the window. But here they say it tends to be confusing and misleading to the jury due to the lack of expertise in the field of mental health with regard to any of the reference witnesses. And I tend to agree with them on this, if they can prove that that's factual. Okay. So that was today's motion in Lemonade. And then shortly after that, they filed a verified motion certificate of appearance regarding out-of-state witness. We'll take a look at those documents now. Yeah, that's true. None of your business. Silas Stingy. It's probably a sneaky way for the defense to get a third party in. But even if a third party is involved, it doesn't exclude Richard Allen. Exactly. That's why I think they're going to discredit his confession and all this talk about him knowing Richard Allen. And I think that's going to explain why they're calling in this Ricky Davis Jr. Because after looking up their doc numbers, they were both locked up in the same facility at one point. So I think they're gonna call in Ricky, and he's gonna say something like, "Well, Kagan told me that he was lying, that he made that stuff up because you guys were taking him to Mickey D's." And taking him on field trips and shit. What's up, Rain Dancer? Chemos too? What's that? Welcome in under your scars. But also, how much weight does a confession hold if it's not in writing and signed? Yeah, because also, Walla even said that there were moments during his quote unquote confession that she thought he was lying. So, I mean, this is going to be difficult. That's why you can't really put too much into these confessions. If he's not sitting down and you can see him on camera that he's not distraught or he's coherent or whatever, he's not being forced, and he's saying, I'm remorseful. I want to get this over with. I want to tell you guys exactly what happened. I'm ready to talk. That's not what happened with these confessions. Oh, you're talking about chomos. You said chimos. I thought that's what you meant. Yeah, chomos. So here's the verified motion for certificate of appearance regarding out-of-state witness. If you guys want to screenshot that. I'm zoom in on this half. And then I'll zoom in on the bottom half for you. Yeah, said he confessed 60 times, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. We'll dedicate a big chunk of this live stream towards that. Yeah, that's a good question, Sees Through. Why Chadwell? And there's a loose connection between Chadwell and Keegan Kline, so I don't know. They both lived in Peru, really close to each other. They're both sick people. And investigators were really interested in Chadwell. And apparently he was in Delphi on the 13th. I remember seeing a Facebook post of him. He took a photograph of his boss's truck or something, and it was time-stamped like 10 a.m. on February 13th, the day the girls were murdered. So I don't know what their interest is in him. I would like to know. Okay. Comes now Bradley A. Rosie, counsel for defendant Richard Allen. and respectfully request that this court issue a certificate of appearance under the seal of court directing material witness Dr. Monica Walla to appear and testify at the jury trial in this cause in support of said motion. Attorney Rosie swears and affirms as follows. The jury trial in this matter is set to commence on Monday, October 14th at 9 a.m., at which time jury selection will commence in Allen County, Indiana. By direction of the court, opening arguments will begin on Friday, October 18th, 2024. While awaiting trial, defendant Allen was detained for a period greater than 1 year in the Westville Correctional Facility Maximum Security Segregation Unit pursuant to a safekeeping order issued by Honorable Judge Benjamin Diener. And then he mysteriously recused himself, right? But I believe he recused himself because he dealt a lot with Derek German with his drug charges. So I feel like it was important for him to get this pushed through so that nothing happened to Richard Allen. You know, emotions being high, him being a threat to himself. And then after he pushed the safekeeping order through, he recused himself, I believe, because of his connections to Derek German. There could be other reasons, right? Pursuant to said order, custody of defendant Allen was transferred to the Indiana Department of Corrections while defendant Allen awaited trial. While at the facility, defendant Allen was assigned to psychologist Dr. Monica Walla, who was at the time employed by IDOC's third-party mental health provider, Centurion. On or about July 31st, 2024, Dr. Walla remained employed at Centurion and testified at the pretrial hearings in this cause. Okay, give me a second because I think the next page has her home address, so I'm going to block that out real quick. If I can. I meant to do this before. Sorry, guys. There we go. Beth, is filing this many motions so close to trial normal, or could that be trying to gain an advantage for a plea deal? I don't know. Cindy made a great comment before we went live. She said they're probably pushing everything through that they haven't yet, just to show that they're doing everything that they could, you know. You know, we tried to do everything we could for our client, and we kept getting denied. So maybe it'll have something to do with their appeal later on. What's up, Denise? Okay. In the days following her testimony, Dr. Walla was issued a gate disclosure by the Indiana Department of Corrections, and it is believed that Dr. Walla is no longer employed with Centurion. The defense just recently became aware of said gate disclosure and apparent termination. So yeah, I guess there we go. She was fired. And I'm sure it has everything to do with her snooping into Keegan Kline. So she admitted to that on the stand, that she used her privilege to gain access to private information about Keegan Kline, which is very unprofessional. So that's probably going to hurt the case quite a bit, especially when Richard Allen is, you know, giving her the most detailed confession, and she's over here showing personal interest in the case. That's definitely going to hurt her credibility, unfortunately, in my opinion. Centurion's legal representative, attorney Robert Brandt, did not communicate to attorney Rosie via email on September 18th, 2024, that he no longer represents Dr. Walla and cannot accept service for any subpoena or other documents directed to her attorney. Brandt further represented that he no longer represents any other party or non-party involved in this case and therefore cannot accept service on behalf of Centurion or any other Centurion provider. Welcome in, Boston Christian. Yeah, I think it might go towards the appeal. Like, hey, we did everything we could for our client. It's not our fault that the judge was biased or appears to be biased. Crime Sleepers coming through with the super sticker. Thank you for that. Very generous of you. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Crime Sleepers, for sponsoring today's live stream. I appreciate you guys. All right. Defendant Allen's attorneys believe but are not certain that Dr. Walla currently resides at redacted. Dr. Walla also confirmed during prior testimony that she resided in the state of Illinois. Therefore, defendant Allen desires to secure the appearance and testimony of Dr. Walla, an out-of-state witness, though the process provided for. Defendant Allen believes that Dr. Walla is a material witness in the case for the following reasons. Dr. Walla was assigned to Richard Allen as his treating psychologist while he was incarcerated at the Westville Correctional Facility for over 1 year. Dr. Walla met with Richard Allen on numerous occasions during his stay at Westville, nearly all of which were intended to address and monitor the state of Richard Allen's mental health. Nearly all of the communications between Dr. Walla and defendant Allen occurred in confidential and privileged therapeutic sessions. Well, I mean, it's not confidential when you're confessing to killing 2 girls, right? It's kind of like, what was it, the Menendez brothers? They were talking to their therapist and they confessed to the murders. It was his obligation at that point to come forward and tell law enforcement that what they had stated. So there's no such thing as confidential when you're talking about killing kids. But I do find it strange that they're interested in Dr. Walla. So think about it. She has a different kind of motivation, right? Her loyalties have changed. She's fired now. She no longer works for that company. So she has no loyalty to them. So maybe she's going to change her opinion. And also, if you go look at her online activity on social media, everything that I've read shows that she's more pro defense and that she wanted to kind of comfort Richard Allen. So I think her loyalty is going to be more now to helping Richard Allen. But that's just, just thinking out loud. The state intends to introduce as evidence in this trial incriminating statements made by Richard Allen while incarcerated at Westville Correctional Facility. And his most detailed confessions, I believe, were to Dr. Walla. She was very comforting to Richard Allen. She provided him with a book. I have that information here. We'll look at that here in just a second. The defendant intends to prove that incriminating statements made by defendant Allen were involuntary and resulted from the conditions surrounding his. Okay, so that's why. So she's going to tell the jury that she believes that they were involuntary and resulted from the conditions surrounding his incarceration. And that explains why she provided this book here. Man's Search for Meaning. So I first heard about this book when I was listening to Aspen Connor and Turbo. They took some really good notes while at the hearings. And on Aspen's notes, he mentioned this book, Man's Search for Meaning. So this is a 1946 book by Viktor Frankl, chronicling his experience as a prisoner in Nazi concentration camps during World War II and describing his psychotherapeutic method, which involved identifying a purpose to each person's life through one of 3 ways: the completion of tasks, caring for another person, or finding meaning by facing suffering with dignity. Frankel observed that among the fellow inmates in the concentration camps, those who survived were able to connect with the purpose in life, to feel positive about who then immersed themselves in imagining that purpose in their own way, such as conversing with an imagined loved one. According to Frankel, the way a prisoner imagined the future affected his longevity. The book intends to answer the question, how was everyday life in a concentration camp reflected in the mind of the average person? Part 1 constitutes Frankel's analysis of his experiences in the concentration camps, while Part 2 introduces his ideas of meaning and his theory for the link between people's health and their sense of meaning in life. He called this theory logotherapy. I might not be saying that right. And there are now multiple logotherapy institutes around the world. So if she's giving him this book, it must be her opinion that he's in those under similar circumstances. You know, like a POW. They used to say that a lot early on when Richard Allen was arrested, that he was being treated like a prisoner of war. She must agree with that. So she now is falling more on the defense witness side. Okay, so what else do we have here that was filed today? Motion, here's the last one. Defendant's motion to incorporate evidence presented at the August 1st pretrial hearing into offer of proof at trial. Yeah, thanks a lot, the crime sleepers. Welcome in, Ellen. Brad says, no telling what we will soon learn, to be honest. Welcome in, Roxy. Ellen, welcome. Just thinking about this, if Richard Allen is blaming Odinist, what does his attorneys and him think will happen if he is convicted? What prison group will protect him? I don't know. He might be in segregation for the rest of his stay. Good to see you, Joni. Hopefully I was saying that right. Badass. Richard Allen needs his lioness baby blanket. Okay, so defendant's motion to incorporate evidence presented at the August 1st pretrial hearing into offer of proof at trial. Good to see you, Turquoise. Wonder why he is treated with such kid gloves. Right. Comes now the accused, Richard Allen, by and through counsel, and respectfully asks this court to consider this motion regarding his offer of proof. In support of this motion, the accused submits the following. A hearing was held on several motions, including the state's motion in limine in this matter on July 30th through August 1st of 2024. During those hearings, particularly those on July 30th and August 1st, testimony was taken regarding paragraph 7 of the state's motion, which argued that evidence of third-party suspects and motive, including those practicing Norse paganism, Odinism, should be excluded from trial. At this hearing, the defense presented its proposed evidence through certain exhibits, as well as testimony of Dr. Dawn Perlmutter. And we're going to look at her cross-examination by Nick here in a minute. Well, a couple pages. Kevin Murphy, Todd Click, Amber Holder, Jerry Holman, Chris Cecil Patrick Cicero, among others, and argued that the evidence should be used at trial to argue that third party suspects committed the crimes and that the murderers were likely involved in Norse paganism slash Odinism, and that said testimony and evidence should therefore be admissible at trial. On September 4th, 2024, the court issued an order granting state's motion in limine and excluded evidence of third party motive, including evidence regarding Odinism, cult or ritualistic killing. Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Johnny Messer, Elvis Fields, Ned Smith, Rod Abrams, Kagan Klein, Jerry Klein, and Ron Logan. In its order excluding the evidence, the court noted that it will allow that evidence to support an offer of proof if one is made by counsel. So at any point that they can create a nexus, it will be allowed, and it should be allowed, and it must be allowed. But they so far have failed to do that. It's all been speculation, it's all been a distraction, and serves no purpose. No meaningful purpose at this time. Therefore, the defense does not believe it is necessary to make the request found in this motion, as the court has already stated that it will allow the aforementioned testimony and exhibits to be used as an offer of proof in the trial. The defense makes its request in the motion at hand to even further preserve the record that the court will allow the aforementioned testimony and exhibits to support an offer of proof that counsel for Richard Allen will be making at trial. The defendant intends to make an offer of proof at trial regarding the evidence of third-party suspects. Interesting. Motive of the individuals listed, as well as the third-party suspects who murdered the victims, were involved in Norse paganism. An offer of proof must 1. Make the substance of the evidence, 2. The grounds for admission, and 3. The relevance of the evidence known to the trial court in the offer to prove Roach v. State. The defendant submits that the substance of the defendant's proposed evidence has been made abundantly clear during the lengthy pretrial hearing regarding the issue, and therefore moves to incorporate the evidence presented at the pretrial hearing on July 30th and August 1st, 2024, into the record at trial for purposes of the defendant's offer of proof. So they don't want to present third-party suspects. They want to present a discussion about the third-party suspects, which was the testimony from Don Perlmutter, this person here. Number 9, the defendant intends to make his formal offer of proof during the defendant's case in chief and present additional legal and factual arguments in support of the admissibility of the defendant's proposed evidence at that time. However, should the court grant this request, as it has previously indicated that it would, the defendant intends to rely on the evidence presented at the pretrial hearing on those issues and not present any redundant evidence in the offer of proof. So they're going to use that discussion, but not any of their Frank's motion stuff. Number 11, granting this motion would serve the cause of judicial efficiency, as the defendant's offer of proof would otherwise cause a significant delay in the trial if the defendant were required to present the same evidence into the court at trial for purposes of the offer of proof. Furthermore, the granting of this motion before trial will also save money for the Carroll County taxpayers, as those witnesses who have been served with subpoenas will not need to appear, nor will they need to be paid the mileage to appear, including the cost of airfare and time for certain expert witnesses that would be especially costly. It's funny how they care about that now, but they spent $12,000 to get a document that YouTubers already had, or a photograph that was taken from a Facebook page that has nothing to do absolutely with anything. It doesn't even look like the crime scene. Yet we discovered that they charged the citizens of Indiana $12,000 to make that visit. That shit don't add up. So it's funny that they get to pick and choose. Residents. Hey, thank you, Joni. I appreciate that. Road Dog. What up, Pat? I got you loud and clear while making deliveries here in Panama City Beach. Ooh, shout out to Panama City Beach. Eyes on the road, sir. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Too bad we can't have Steve debunking the Odinist rune stick display. I think he has a few times on his channel. You guys should go check it out. True Crime Web. Root, what's up? I don't see Gull going for this. I think she will. It's not like she wants to exclude the Odinism stuff, but there's rules that you have to follow. It can't be based on speculation. So, I mean, they should at least be able to allow what was said to exclude it, right? Because I think that even the cross-examination of Perlmutter, she got destroyed by Nick. So I don't think it benefits them anyway. Yeah, thank you, Joni. And some Brit who worked as a guard at the prison he worked for had to address them like that. Residents, huh? I think I've heard that a few times, even for us out here. Okay. He knows his shit, maybe. Okay, so I have a video I want to play and two articles I want to go over that pretty much cover the August 1st pretrial and what was discussed at that time. So let's go to the video first.
Went until around 8:30, nearly 12 hours in court. And perhaps the biggest news to happen in today's hearing was the last thing to happen. Judge Fran Gull granting the motion to vacate Richard Allen's safekeeping order. That means he will not be going back to the Department of Corrections. Instead, he is now in the Carroll County Sheriff's custody. I talked to Sheriff Liggett in the courtroom when the hearing was over, and he told me that he won't say where Allen will be housed. Allen has been in the Cass County Jail during these hearings because of the safekeeping order. He wasn't able to be in the Carroll County Jail. But Sheriff Liggett tells me that now that the safekeeping order is lifted, he doesn't necessarily have to be in a cell by himself anymore, and that behavior dictates where inmates are. Richard Allen had a visible sigh of relief in the courtroom when the judge lifted that safekeeping order. Now, this is just one of several motions that were discussed during these 3 days of hearings. Most of today focused on the motion in limine. That is where the state wants the defense to be prohibited from mentioning Odinism or a list of third-party suspects in a trial. The defense tried to link Brad Holder and several others to the killings, saying it was an Odinistic ritual. One expert testified that based on body position and sticks on the girls' bodies, it was, quote, textbook ritualistic killing. But Brad Holder's ex-wife also testified, saying that the god Odin protects children and Odinus wouldn't hurt kids. But she also described a situation where Holder said that he had a fight with a friend about a ritual in the woods by water that went wrong. It was also emotional in court today several times. A detective from the state police cried on the stand after he saw a picture of the girls at the crime scene. He was asked to identify it, and he broke down saying, quote, "It's tough. It sucks." Abby and Libby's family also got emotional during testimony from a blood pattern expert. He graphically described pools of blood at the scene, all of which was Libby's. He said it indicates that she was still moving after the cuts were made to her neck. A big point of argument today was blood on a tree at the scene and whether or not it was painted on as a ritual symbol or not. The blood expert said it was the result of a bloody hand on the tree, not an apparent symbol. Again, Judge Gold ruled on just one of the several motions discussed in these 3 days of hearings. She did not give a timeline on when she might make a decision, but both sides over the course of these hearings submitted dozens of pieces of evidence. So Judge Gold has a lot to go through. And there was some issue with the attorneys at the judge's bench when the hearings were just about over. It's unclear what that disagreement was about. They did say on record, though, that they would work it out at another time. And you can read much more from all of the hearings right now on Wayne.com.
So shout out to Wayne 15 News. Great report. And I pulled two articles that go a little bit further into detail on that. But because of time, we're going to skip that and go directly to some of these pages from Nick McClelland's cross-examination of Don Perlmutter, this individual here. So I think this is page 59, 60, 61, 64. Okay, so Nick asks Perlmutter, and you're confident that they weren't for any kind of countermeasure or to cover up the bodies. So she was basically testifying and being questioned by the defense. She stated that the sticks were obviously runic and part of some kind of a ritual. But apparently, Richard Allen told Dr. Walla that he used the sticks to cover the bodies. So that's why he's kind of hitting her pretty hard. She says, absolutely confident. They're not covering the bodies. They're absolutely not working that way. They're not functioning that way. But we all know that they searched the area that the girls were, and it in fact worked to help conceal the bodies 100%. It was effective. Nick says, but if the crime scene's personalized to the individual, how can you make that assumption that they weren't up there to cover the bodies? Her response is because the bodies aren't covered. But they don't have to be covered to be camouflaged, right? They don't have to be completely covered. You know, camouflage, I think, would suffice and accomplish the same goal. Nick says, not completely covered, right? But there's some coverage. She says, just minimal, that I think. It's just obviously not done to cover the bodies. If they're not covered, I mean. Nick says, is that what you're basing your opinion on? They're not for countermeasures, but they don't completely cover the body? She says, yes. Nick says, and so, therefore, they must be symbols, right? She says, no, not therefore it has to be symbols. It was a ritual act, in my opinion. It was a ritual that was done that had meaning to the offender. There were a lot of ways in that scene that they could have covered the bodies with leaves and things. That's not what was done. They were arranged in a very specific manner. Nick says, if the defendant made a statement, and this is part of the confession, he's kind of revealing what was said, I believe, to Dr. Walla. If the defendant made a statement that the branches are there intended to cover the bodies, would that change your opinion? She says, no, I don't think it would. So regardless of what the defendant said, you're going with those are part of a symbol. So she kind of sounds ridiculous. And remember, about a month prior to this, she went on court TV and said, without a doubt, you know, basically staking her reputation on it, that she believes that it's a ritualistic murder. Can't really go against that now, right? What's up, Pitbull? Mom, good to see you. Yeah, it was getting dark. The girls were kind of in an indented area of the ground, kind of like a bowl. And covering them with those sticks would make the sticks almost appear as if they're level with the ground. So if you're looking for two living girls, not two bodies that are, of two murdered children, you're looking for two girls that might be injured, sitting down on a log, leaning against a tree, maybe walking or lost. You're not looking for bodies on the ground, especially if they're covered with sticks, right? I think it would be very effective in the middle of the night and how dark it was out there. I think it would be very effective to cover them with sticks. It's not to cover them, it's to camouflage them. And we don't know if he was in a hurry or what. But according to this, he told Dr. Walla, that's why I did it. I covered the bodies with sticks to hide them. Okay. Perlmutter says, I'm going with they had different meaning to the offender. Nick says, would it change your mind that the defendant here is admitted to killing the girls? She says, no. Nothing's going to change your mind. Would it change your mind that he admitted to killing the girls and his defense team has admitted he has no odious ties? Would that change your mind? She says, no. So she's already made up her mind. Nothing's going to change her mind. Nick says, the blood on the tree. How confident are you that this is a symbol as opposed to blood spatter? She says, I'm extremely confident. It's an intentional mark, in my opinion. It's an intentional mark. Yet she doesn't know what the mark is. And I find that very confusing. How do you know that it's an intentional mark, yet you can't tell us what that mark is? So you can't decipher what it is. You can't translate. You can't tell us what it is, but yet you know it's intentional. How is that even possible? That doesn't seem honest to me. Question by Nicholas McClelland. You have no training or you have minimal training in blood spatter, correct? She says correct. So how can you rule that out? Because of the appearance of it and the context that it's in, with it being done at that scene. What is the context it's in? Can you explain that to me? What context is the blood on the tree in? I'm going from my experience in a number of cases where markings are put on trees at these types of scenes in blood. And from my experience, this is consistent with that. Okay, so you've had other cases where you've examined crime scene where the markings had been left in blood at the crime scene? She says, well, not that specific marking. Nick says, but you have minimal training in blood spatter. She says, correct. And you've ruled that out? She says, yes. And you've ruled out contact and transfer as well. Correct. So once again, she's saying she's 100% convinced that it's a marking, but yet not once does she tell us what type of a marking it is. Nick says, and we talked a little bit about this, or Mr. Baldwin did, if the BAU examined the evidence in this case and said that the sticks were a form of undoing, your testimony is that they're wrong? Well, my testimony is that their perspective, they're trained to analyze it that way. That's how they're trained. And so analyzing these crime scenes is all about the perspective you bring into it when you analyze it. No, it's about completely different methodology. Looking at it from a cultural anthropological methodology as opposed to behavioral analysis. And you use that methodology when you examine this crime scene? Correct. Mr. McClelland says, can I just have a moment, Judge? Court, you may. Nick says, Miss Perlmutter, on the chart that Mr. Baldwin put up, there were seven things listed, and he never really touched base on number 7. But number 7 was atypical blood pattern, and underneath it, it says atypical blood pattern on victim's face. What did you mean by that? There appeared to be on LG's face an inconsistent pattern with the blood. There was a reference to it, I think, in the blood spatter report. Miss Perlmutter, when did you first look at the evidence for this case? All right, we'll take a quick pause right there. Yeah, and you don't really need any training for that to know, like, hey, I need to cover these girls up. This just in, we have a scrub report. 160 watching and only 70 likes. Support the channel and pound that thumb. Go hit the like button, you scrubs. Hey, Augie. Well, it depends on if you think they are false confessions. Yeah, and I'm not sure. I don't know the context. I haven't seen the transcripts. And I didn't get a good look at Richard Allen. I don't know what state of mind he was in. Hey, Anna, if that expert is so sure the sticks have meaning, she ought to be able to read or decipher them. Yeah, she was able to decipher, the 3 sticks that were crossed that look like an asterisk over Abby, right? But she had no comment on the complex formation over Libby. How convenient is that? And 3 sticks crossed the way they were. They weren't even. They weren't crossed in the center of the sticks. It just didn't look like it was done purposefully. And you could throw 3 sticks on the ground and they could fall that way. But she was able to decipher that one based off of a Facebook post where it appeared Brad Holder was kind of creating the same symbol on his hand, and he gave a description of what it was. It was a bind rune. So yeah, she could decipher that one, right? But as far as the complex placement of the sticks over Libby, she had no clue or no comment on that. And I found that very convenient. Hey, welcome in, Silver Leaf. To be honest, when I heard about the Odinist stuff, all I could think of was someone just graduated from creative writing in the 1970s called and they wanted their movie ideas back. It was a true crime detective, satanic panic in reverse. Hey, Roy, what's up? The sticks worked. They weren't found till the next day. Exactly. And the investigators, they weren't even concerned with them. They didn't collect them for about, I think, another 5 days, which I think was a mistake. But that just goes to show that when they came upon this crime scene, they didn't think, hey, well, this is some kind of a satanic ritual or whatever. Anna says there are a number of ancient writing systems that are not yet deciphered. Maybe this expert has a future making up. I mean, reading those old inscriptions. There's definitely a symbol here. Okay, what symbol is it? I don't know. But it's definitely a symbol. It looks like a bunch of scribbling. Exactly. With purpose. So, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so let's continue on here. I understand that. Are there any other cases where you've examined a crime scene where you've looked at a motion from the defense to make an analysis of whether or not that crime scene is a ritual killing? That goes outside your standards, correct? Yes. McClellan says, okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. And then here comes a question by Baldwin. You said something about a serrated edge, and that was in, you believe, the autopsy report. So I skipped the part where McClellan actually brings up the fact that Richard Allen confessed to using a box cutter. So we're going to do an experiment to see if certain type of box cutters that are used at CVS can leave a serrated cut. But the box cutters that I ordered, they got delayed. So I don't even know if they're coming. You know how that happens sometimes when you order from Amazon. For whatever reason, it gets lost. And it just never shows up. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's all I have for you guys. We'll go ahead and we'll open up the discussion here for another 5-10 minutes. Thank you, Pitbull. I appreciate that. Anna says there's an F on a tree. Is it a rune with Odinist meaning, or is the F part of basic FU? Or is it an upside down L, or simply blood spatter? Yeah, a lot of folks were referring to it as an upside down L. And we did our own experiments. We came to the conclusion that it was a left palm print. Not that we know what the hell we're talking about, but I mean, we actually did experiments with it. And it matched. And it kind of goes with the crime flow. Mustang says, in my opinion, from Libby's hand. That's what the experts are saying. Thank you, Mustang. Justice for Abby and Libby. You are welcome, Mustang. Oh, thank you, Augie. Thanks for hanging out, catching the live stream, and participating in the chat. Same goes for all of you guys. I know this was a pretty short one, but we are going live in about 3 hours. I had to reschedule the live stream from yesterday. We'll be doing that 4 Mountain Standard Time on disturbing 911 calls and supporting information on those cases. So should be a nice long stream. Hopefully you guys can catch it. So in the documents today, they said they're going to basically start opening statements on the 18th. So really it's 7 days. I thought they were going to start on the 17th, but whatever. We'll stick with this this countdown. Special thank you to Jerry, the Crime Sleepers, and Joni. Thank you guys for sponsoring today's live stream. All of my mods, appreciate your hard work. And members of my channel, you guys keep me going. And all of you who continue to donate to the Cash App, you guys are buying my time. So I appreciate you guys. All right. If there's nothing else, shout out to the replay crew. You know what to do. Drop a comment. We'll get back to you. And if you guys need to reach me for whatever reason, you can shoot me an email at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. And hopefully I'll see you guys a little bit later in the day. Take care. Peace.